Hello, my name is Sonia, and this is video number 22 in my series, The Basics of Crochet. And today we're going to learn about weaving in our ends. So you've probably been wondering, on my first video I went over this. This is our tapestry needle or our yarn needle, and you haven't seen it again. So today we're going to learn how to use this. So I'm sure you've noticed with some of the swatches that we've been doing is you end up, here's a double crochet swatch with these tails. This doesn't look very nice unless you want to have fringe, but this isn't a fringe project. So this is where your tapestry needle is going to help you out. We're going to use this to learn how to get rid of these things. So here is a single crochet swatch that I have made, and as you can see there are no tails, and I have used my yarn needle to get rid of them. So we are going to learn how to do that today. So the important thing to remember is when you're weaving in your ends is you want to know which is your right side of your project and which is your wrong side. Now some projects will tell you, some projects will say it's reversible, but when you're weaving in ends you just want to have a mental note of what is the right side and what is the wrong side. So we're going to say that this is our right side. So these tails that are to my left, that's how we'll know this is my right side. So when I turn it over, my tails are to the right. This is the wrong side. So when you're weaving in your ends, you want to weave in on the wrong side. So to start with, I am going to this is how I like to do it. I just pop my needle and I go across. Now some people like to crochet over their stitches. I tend to not like to do that unless I'm working in the round and it's a hat pattern, because that can often, because they don't want to weave in ends, and weaving in ends is really not a fun thing. Well, maybe there's some people that love it, but you're excited, you finally finish stitching, and then you see these ends and you're like, oh, I have to take care of them. So it's not as fun as stitching is to me, but you just want your project to look nice, so you do want to take the time to weave in your ends. So to start, I usually do it like this. So you stick it right in the stitches there, your needle, and then I'll flip it over because I want to see, is this my needle showing through? Because let's say you're just doing it real fast and you're not really paying attention, you just want to get it done, and you flip it over and you can see the needle is poking through there. What's going to happen is what you'll do is you'll thread your tail through there. You're going to pull it through. You're going to see that line across. This is our right side. You don't want to see that. That's not going to look nice. So you'll want to take your needle out and go back and just carefully insert your hook or your needle through a couple of those stitches, and then again flip it over so it looks nice and neat and tidy. So now you're ready to thread your tail through the yarn or the hole in your yarn needle, and then you'll just pull it through just like that. Now you don't want to pull too tight because then you're going to kink up your project, so you want to be careful with that. So when you flip that over, you can't even see it. Now I want to have both sides look nice for this, so sometimes then I'll just go back across. So I would skip this because you wouldn't want to thread it right in here. You'll just pull it right back out. The next one. But then it might leave a little bit of a bump. So what you can do, because we're worked with a solid color, you can just find some loops in your project, and it's good to go in like back and forth. So go up like that when you're weaving in your ends, because if you just go all the way across, that's why I say some people like to crochet, they'll just crochet all the way across, but depending on the stitch that you've used and there's wear and tear of your project, those ends are going to pop right back out. So I don't really recommend that. So we're gonna work in some of these stitches, and then we're gonna flip my, make sure my needle isn't poking through, because again, you want to take a little bit of time. You want your project to look nice. You work so hard to stitch it. So this is just the final step. So we weave that in, and see, you can't see it on that side. So now I'm going to go back up here and I'll work across this way. So I'm kind of working this way, and that way. And get that. So as you can see, it is a little bit fiddly, it is a little bit of a drag. It's really nobody's favorite. But it's just one of those things that you know, the necessary evil you got to take care of. So I don't see my needle. Gonna thread that guy. We're gonna pull it through, and see how it looks in the front. So it looks pretty good. So I'm not going to keep threading across because I've got a good tail woven through there. So there's just a little bit of a tail left. So then you can just snip it. And I usually like to leave a little bit poking because then I pull it. Because again, you know, if you're using a blanket, there's going to be some wear and tear, and then it just gets hidden right in the project there. So you flip it over, and this is our right side. You can't even see it. So we'll take care of this guy on the top. So it's nice if you've used, I'm going to go down the side here, one color, because you can kind of weave wherever you want. It's a little trickier when you've used two colors, which I'll show you how to do that. So we're going to go a little bit across here. Make sure things are looking good on the front side. So that's why you want to weave in on the wrong side, because that's the side that doesn't look quite as nice. So if if it looks a little bumpy, like let's say you go back here. If it looks a little bumpy on the wrong side, that's okay. Now if your project is reversible, then what I recommend when you're working with something that's reversible is to try to just weave down the sides so that you're not, you know, in the bulk of the project, you're not going to see, you know, not going to feel lumpy or bumpy where you've woven in your ends. So we'll go down here. And see if the needle's really poking out. Well, looks like it is there, so pull that guy out. Because again, you want your project to look nice. So my recommendation is when you're weaving in ends, pop in a movie that you love or put Netflix on and do some binge watching and just get to it. Or you can, sometimes you can weave as you go. I've done that too. I've been, especially if I'm working on a big project, and it calls for a lot of colors. So I'll work a couple rows and then I'll weave in a couple rows and do that. So snip that, pull that guy. So I like to manipulate my project a little bit, you know, just like if somebody was, like if they're wearing it or using it as a blanket, you know, they're not just going to lay there still, you know, holding the blanket, not moving it. It's going to get moved around. So I like to shift it around to see. And so that's our right side. So you can see the ends don't show, and it looks very nice, and it even looks fairly nice on the wrong side. So that's how you weave in ends with the one color. So here I have a little swatch with two colors. And it's the same thing. You want to establish what's your right side, what's your wrong side. Now, that one was easy. I had all my ends on the left side, so I said this was my right side, and then when I flipped it over, I could see that the ends were on the right side. Knew it was my wrong side, but we'll use this as our wrong side. I just like the way the colors look better on this side, so we're going to say this is the wrong side. So we're going to be weaving in ends on this side. So what I'm going to do here is I want to concentrate. I don't want to weave in ends. Like, you want to keep the same colors with the same colors, like it basically. So color blue, we're going to want to weave in with the color blue. Because if you try to weave it in with the tan, it's going to show, and that's just not going to look nice. So we're going to, so keep your light colors together. So we're going to get started here. So check. And so some people will stay away from working with a lot of colors because of this. They don't want to weave in ends. And that's okay. I don't love weaving in ends, but I love working with color. So I just kind of put up with it and, you know, figure it's just it just goes with the territory with working with a lot of colors. You're going to have ends to weave in. So I just factor that in. But everybody's different, and some people don't like lots of colors. They like a more, you know, monochrome look. That's okay. I just wanted to show you that. So there's no real strict formula with it. Again, I just think you want to vary it. So you want to go back and forth, or even you could go up and down. Let's say you were working, you know, 10 rows of tan. You know, you could weave up and you could weave down. But you just definitely want to have a back and forth, because that's going to make it harder for, you know, any little ends to pop out, and that you don't want that. So I'm going to snip that guy, and we'll do this one. So this is what, in a pattern, you know, there might be a finishing section. So this would be considered finishing. Weaving in your ends. If you made something that needs buttons, you would sew on buttons. Or if you're making a sweater, you would, you know, might need, sometimes sweaters are made in pieces, so you would need to sew the sleeves or this, you know, any seams. So this would be considered finishing. So we've almost got this tan guy. Taken care of up here. So yeah, this isn't a very exciting thing, but again, you want your project to look nice. You worked really hard on it. You know, you're proud of it, so you want to, you know, see it through to the end. So I'm not going to do these guys down here, but I'm going to show you. So we'll do the blue. So we want to stick with like colors, weave in. And that's why I like the metal needles, because I just find them to be sturdier than the plastic, because I do tend to be a tighter crocheter, so some of my projects, my stitches are fairly tight, so when I'm trying to stick a plastic one in there, you know, it can bend a little bit, and that would be a pain. So then we'll go up. So you can see I'm kind of going back and forth. And it might seem really fiddly at first. I mean, it is a little bit fiddly, but you know you'll get it down. It's not very difficult. It's just kind of a drag. All right. So we are going to snip that guy. And again, I'm going to stretch it, pull it, because again, if this was a big blanket, you know, it's going to get moved around. So this is my wrong side. We're going to see how it looks on the right side. I'm not going to do these guys, but I just wanted to show you how to weave in ends with different colors. So that is how you weave in ends and how you finish up your project. Thank you so much for watching.